When a demonic threat turns a group of scientists into zombies, Doomguy and his special soldiers must prevent the gateway to hell from being opened on Earth. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Doom, from 2005. In the year 2026, some archaeologists working in the Nevada desert discovered a portal to an ancient city on Mars and named it Arco. 20 years later, researchers are still trying to understand why that portal was built and what happened to the people who built it. In recent decades, a research unit has been built on Mars so that scientists can expand their research. However, one day, a creature invaded the Olduvai base and all the employees had to flee to avoid being devoured. During the escape, Dr. Todd Carmack was the only one who managed to escape and left his colleagues behind, allowing them to be devoured alive. Upon arriving at his office, the scientist contacts the U.S. Marine Corps and informs them that his research unit has suffered a rupture. While Carmack tries to implement the quarantine procedures, the monster manages to destroy the door and invades the room. That same day, Sarge and his ETRR team are recruited to contain the alien threat and rescue the survivors who are hiding in the base. After gathering all the members of the group, Sarge recommends that John Grimm stay out of this mission, as they are on their way to Olduvai. However, the man decides to ignore his boss and joins his colleagues in the aircraft to cross the Arc. Upon landing at the UAC installation unit in Nevada, the Special Forces agents come across an elevator and meet Agent Crosby, who takes them to the portal. After the journey, all the members of the team manage to reach Mars and meet Pinky, a man who had his body broken in half during one of the journeys between the two planets. On leaving the maximum security room, Sarge and his men meet Dr. Samantha Grimm, John's sister, who has been assigned to recover the data from the servers in Dr. Carmack's laboratory, which is isolated from the rest of the unit. The only way in or out of there is via the compression camera, so before starting the mission, Sarge divides his team into pairs to optimize the time used on that mission. When they arrive at the genetic research sector, Portman and Goat find countless animals trapped in cages, as well as human remains that were being used in experiments. The pair then reach a secret room where there is a containment cell with electrified walls. Meanwhile, John and Samantha are in the archaeology lab collecting research data, and the scientist tells them that the skeleton of Lucy and her son were the first traces found of humanoid creatures living on Mars. When she analyzed Lucy's genetic sequencing, Samantha realized that she had 24 pairs of chromosomes instead of 23. This means that, when she was alive, that humanoid was a superhuman, because the extra pair of chromosomes made her super strong, super adaptable and super intelligent. In addition, the fossil record indicates that Lucy's cells divided up to 50 times faster, which allowed her to heal almost instantly. To recreate those genes, Samantha needs a copy of the genetic sequencing, as this research could help create new superhumans. When he finds out that his colleagues are in need of help, John asks his sister to lock herself in the lab and says he'll be back soon to pick her up. Meanwhile, Portman and Goat find a person fleeing through the corridors and start shooting, as they mistake him for an alien. However, when John approaches, he comes across Dr. Carmack holding a woman's forearm and begins to interrogate him. At that moment, Samantha appears and tries to communicate with the scientist, but the man is completely terrified, so Sarge orders Duck to accompany Carmack and Samantha to the infirmary. The rest of the team continues to search for the invading alien, and Portman comes across a suspicious woman in a room. When he realizes that Dr. Hillary hasn't noticed him, Kid decides to call her. However, at that moment, the scientist tries to attack them and the agents have to shoot her. When she realizes that Hillary has her forearm blown off, Portman discovers that the limb Dr. Carmack was holding belonged to her. During the search for the creature, John and Goat return to the genetics laboratory and realize that all the animals that were trapped in the cages minutes ago have disappeared. Suddenly, John spots a zombie scientist devouring some rats and realizes that he has been infected by something. So when Dr. Olson picks up a knife and starts running towards them, the agents have no choice but to start shooting and eliminate the man. Just then, Sarge and Destroyer are searching the ventilation ducts and come across a small zombie monkey. However, Destroyer is so terrified that he is startled by the animal and immediately starts shooting at it. Searching every corner of the unit, John spots a gigantic creature trying to escape and chases it into the sewer. However, the monster manages to escape, so Sarge orders Portman into the sewer to look for it. Meanwhile, Samantha is in the infirmary with Duke and, while analyzing a blood sample from Dr. Carmack, she realizes that he is no longer an ordinary human. After checking that the alien is not around, the ETRR agents enter the sewer and walk through the tunnels looking for the enemy. Seeing several ducts, Sarge divides his team into pairs again to optimize the search, and John spots a creature running towards Goat. He immediately alerts his partner to the presence of a possible threat, but the agent's flashlight has stopped working and he can't see a thing. Through a radio communicator, John says he is going to meet his friend, but at that moment Goat is attacked and the creature injects some substance into his neck. After infecting one of the agents, the monster tries to escape, but ends up being found by John, who manages to eliminate it with a few shots. After the monster is eliminated, Sarge and his men take Goat to the infirmary and, while Samantha tries to revive him, the commander realizes that Carmack has disappeared. Even after using the defibrillator and injecting Goat with adrenaline, John is unable to resuscitate him and is furious at the elimination of his coworker. At that moment, Sarge shows Samantha the creature that attacked him and the scientist says that the monster couldn't have come from outside, because Mars is a completely desert planet since the atmosphere on the surface isn't capable of sustaining life. Even so, Sarge sends Destroyer and 2 other agents to go to the surface gateway and check if there are any openings. Whatever that creature is, it can't get through the arch, because if that thing reaches Earth they'll have an even bigger problem to deal with. Sarge then orders Mac to give Pinky a gun and some grenades so that he can protect the Ark while the research unit employees return to Earth. While studying the monster's body, Samantha asks Duke to fetch a bone saw from the operating room. After all the base employees have evacuated the site, Sarge and his team up to scour the area and ensure that anything that moves on that planet is eliminated immediately. Suddenly, the lights in the infirmary begin to flicker and Samantha worries that something has happened to Duke, so she decides to go after him. As she walks through the corridors, she comes across the agent and is relieved to discover that he is all right. However, when the couple meet, a rabid dog appears and everything indicates that it too has been infected. Duke orders the woman to return to the laboratory while he tries to eliminate the animal. However, before the agent even has a chance to shoot, the dog runs away, realizing that something much more threatening is approaching. Just then, Duke is attacked by a monster and starts shooting. Seeing her friend in danger, Samantha asks him to run and, as soon as Duke crosses the nano wall, she materializes the passage again, trapping the alien. Arriving at the door that leads to the outside area of the base, John opens the windows to take a look at the inhospitable planet and remembers the expedition he went on with his family when he was still a child. On one of these missions, the 2 siblings lost their parents and, since then, John has never returned to the base. While John tries to digest his tragic memories, Sarge comes across the bodies of Clay and Thurman, who were recently eliminated. Upon analyzing the bodies, Sarge comes to the conclusion that those men weren't trying to stop anything from entering the base. The truth is that they perished because they couldn't get out. Meanwhile, Destroyer and the rest of the team are in the North Chamber. According to them, the panel indicates that nothing has entered or left the base in the last 26 hours. At that moment, Mac, who was scanning the place, ends up being attacked and the alien rips his head off. Immediately, Sarge and John hear the attack and go after their partner, but it's too late as they find Mac's body with his head on the ground. Seeing the monster approaching, John starts shooting and his opponent runs away. The agent runs after him, but ends up losing sight of the creature. Immediately, Sarge contacts Pinky and orders him to activate the grenade if the alien tries to cross the arch, as it cannot reach Earth. The problem is that if the grenade explodes, the portal will be destroyed and the entire team will be trapped on Mars. After taking the bone saw, Samantha manages to cut open the creature's thorax and remove its organs so that she can study them. What she and Duke don't realize is that Goat, who was eliminated by that creature a few minutes earlier, has just revived as a zombie. Suddenly, the agent realizes that his former colleague has gotten up from the stretcher and wonders if he is alive. Before the transformation is complete, Goat makes a difficult decision and slams his head several times against the glass window in order to end his own life, as he would rather be eliminated than turn into a monster. Arriving in the room where the arsenal of advanced weapons is kept, Sarge decides to test a new weapon that promises to destroy any living creature with a single shot. While following the agents on camera, Pinky realizes that Portman has interrupted his broadcast with the excuse that he is using the bathroom. At this point, Destroyer arrives in the containment room and is attacked by the monster who, after striking him, throws his enemy into the pit with the electrified walls. During the fall, the agent loses contact with his colleagues and has to fight alone against the monster chained below. With the help of the chains, Destroyer strikes the creature, but is unable to bring it down and ends up being thrown into the wall. After being hit hard, the man falls to the ground and tries to get up despite his injuries, but his body is completely destroyed due to the numerous wounds. Realizing that his opponent doesn't have the energy to continue the battle, the alien strikes him again and tries to electrocute him. However, as the electric currents pass through his body, Destroyer manages to grab a knife and attack the monster. After freeing himself from its clutches, the agent grabs a large metal pipe to hit it with and uses the object to pin the creature to the wall while climbing a chain to reach the surface. Destroyer's plan had everything going for it, but he was unlucky. While being electrocuted, the alien manages to destroy the pipe and free himself. At that moment, the agent is still climbing up the chain and ends up being knocked down. As he falls to the ground, Destroyer hits his head and ends up losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Portman is hiding in the bathroom asking for reinforcements for the UAC, even after his commander says that no one should cross the arch until all the monsters have been eliminated. After contacting the base, Portman hears a noise coming from outside the cabin and realizes that he only has 2 bullets. However, while trying to fit the magazine back into his gun, the agent ends up dropping the object on the floor and it slips into the next booth. After checking that there is no threat nearby, Portman crawls into the other cabin and manages to retrieve the magazine. After inserting the ammunition into the gun, he leaves the bathroom in search of his target and finds only a small rat. Relieved, the man turns his camera back on and ends up recording the exact moment when the monster destroys the roof to capture him. While searching for his missing friends, Sarge walks into the containment room and finds Destroyer lifeless inside the electrified cell. Suddenly, he hears Portman's screams and rushes to his aid. The man is being swung from side to side, so when his friends show up, they start shooting and Sarge is surprised to discover the true power of his new weapon. Although they managed to eliminate the monster, the agents were unable to save the life of Portman, who ended up dying after the attack. Minutes later, Sarge and John arrive at the infirmary with the bodies of Destroyer and Portman. At that moment, Samantha reveals that the creatures attacking the team are not aliens, but the scientists themselves who have been transformed into monsters. After the disappearance, Dr. Carmack also transformed and it was he who tried to attack Duke, but got stuck in the wall. When asked about the origin of the genetic mutation, the doctor says that a virus may have been responsible for the transformation and reveals that she is studying a way to reverse the effect. However, Sarge isn't interested in saving those monsters and shoots Dr. Carmack in the throat to make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else. The commander then orders Kid and Duke to return to the lab and make sure that the other scientists who were eliminated don't come back as zombies to haunt them. After losing 4 members of his team, Sarge is furious and asks Samantha what kind of experiments she and the other researchers are carrying out in that secret base. The doctor promptly states that it is an archaeological research center, but when pressed by her brother, the woman decides to show the videos that were in the archive she went to collect. The images show Dr. Carmack injecting a serum that was in the development phase into a human guinea pig and, 5 minutes later, the organism identified as C24 successfully grafts itself onto the individual cells. After seeing the footage, Samantha says she didn't know about Dr. Carmack's research and assures him that she would never agree to mutation experiments on humans. The guinea pig's name was Curtis Stahl and he was arrested on suspicion of various crimes. Due to the seriousness of the case, the man was sentenced to elimination, so he agreed to be a guinea pig for the research and, if he survived, he would be free. However, after the organism was injected into his body, Curtis ended up being taken to the containment room and remained there until he underwent the complete transformation. After seeing that video, John decides to destroy the memory disks so that the UAC can't continue that research. However, Sarge won't allow his agent to destroy the files, because he is a soldier and is committed to carrying out every stage of the mission. Just then, Duke informs them that one of the eliminated scientists has disappeared, so Sarge and John go to meet them to help carry out the search. The creature is on its way to the portal and, when it realizes that something is trying to get in, Pinky chickens out and can't use the grenade because he knows he'll be eliminated if he does. When the system is restarted, Sarge realizes that the containment has been breached, so he informs his men that they will cross the Ark and return to Earth. Upon hearing this, John tries to contact his sister, but Samantha doesn't answer. He immediately goes after her and is relieved to discover that the woman is fine. After conducting further experiments, the doctor comes up with a theory as to why Genome 24 turned her friends into monsters, while the same chromosome turned Lucy into a superhuman. After analyzing the tongue the monsters used to infect their targets, Samantha realizes that they only infect people who have a natural predisposition to violent behavior. This means that the same chromosome can turn people into monsters or superhumans, depending on the markers present in their DNA. After hearing this, John rushes back to the portal, because Sarge is planning to eliminate all the employees working at the UAC research unit, which is located in Nevada. The commander believes that this is the only way to prevent the infection from spreading to the rest of humanity, but when he arrives at the base, he realizes that all the people have disappeared. On leaving the control room, the team finds dozens of bodies scattered around the corridors and shoots them all in the head to ensure that no employee turns into a zombie. When they find some monsters devouring a pile of bodies, Sarge and his men start shooting and manage to get rid of them all in one go. Minutes later, the 2 siblings arrive on Earth and John is startled to find all those bodies. The man immediately contacts Sarge and asks him not to eliminate people, because not everyone is infected. However, Sarge ignores him completely and continues his mission. During his search, Duke finds Pinky hiding among a pile of bodies and takes him to meet the rest of the team. While the man explains what happened, Samantha examines his neck for any wounds that might indicate that he has been infected, but finds nothing. Even so, Sarge is determined to eliminate Pinky and, just as he's about to shoot, Kid shows up to tell him that he's found a warehouse with about 20 people. They all survived because they stayed hidden and had no contact with the monsters, but Sarge ignores this information and says that no one should leave that base alive. However, when he learns that his commander intends to eliminate all those people, Kid refuses to follow his orders and is shot in the throat. Faced with such injustice, John decides to turn against Sarge, but the riot is interrupted by the arrival of a monster who captures Pinky and flees to avoid being shot. Immediately, the agents go after the creature and encounter a horde of zombies who have not yet completed their transformation. When he realizes that they are surrounded, Sarge orders his men to retreat and cross the nano wall. Just then, a creature pulls Duke into the sewer and Sarge is also captured by the zombies. Seeing his companions being eliminated, John grabs his sister and tries to escape, because he knows he won't be able to eliminate all those monsters alone. During the shooting, the man was hit and is losing a lot of blood, so Samantha decides to inject him with the C24 serum created by Dr. Carmack, as this is the only chance her brother has of surviving. Even knowing the risk of creating a new monster, the doctor decides to make a bet and John asks his sister to eliminate him without hesitation if he turns into a zombie. Minutes after having the compound injected into his body, the man wakes up and realizes that all his wounds have healed. When he notices that his sister has disappeared, John goes after her and easily eliminates all the zombies that appear in front of him. Suddenly, one of the monsters that is already in the last stage of transformation appears and the agent shoots into a gas pipe next to it to burn it alive. As he walks through the corridors, he comes across countless bodies and single-handedly manages to get rid of an entire horde of zombies. After eliminating numerous enemies along the way, John faces a monster armed with a chainsaw and ends up being knocked off the second floor. However, when the creature goes after him, the agent uses an explosive to eliminate his adversary. He then continues his journey in search of Sam and finds Pinky already transformed into a monster. When it sees him, the creature tries to devour him, but John uses the chainsaw to cut through the monster's body and it can no longer walk. After shooting Pinky, the agent finds his wounded sister on the ground and discovers that Sarge is alive, but with a wound to the neck. At that moment, he asks Samantha to try to get to the elevator and discovers that his commander has eliminated the 20 people who were hiding in the warehouse. When he realizes that John is planning to eliminate him, Sarge uses his cannon to shoot him, but the man manages to dodge the attack and fires at his superior. When he realizes that John has acquired special powers, Sarge decides to run and hide to try to catch him off guard. However, John already knows his commander's tactics and manages to avoid being hit by him. Then Sarge appears and challenges him to a duel without weapons. John immediately accepts the challenge and, as soon as the fight begins, he realizes that his opponent is much stronger and more skilled than before. Easily, Sarge strikes the agent and manages to throw him away. However, when the commander goes after him, John manages to catch him on the metal railing and is about to defeat him when Sarge uses all his strength to push his opponent. The man then knocks John down with a punch and starts hitting him repeatedly until the agent manages to fight back and gets up to continue the battle. At that moment, John is cornered and has his hand hit by a metal structure. When he realizes that Sarge is starting to turn into a monster, he decides to activate the Ark and sends his commander back to Mars. Soon after, John throws a grenade through the portal and blows up the Olduvai base. After completing his mission, the agent walks to the elevator and returns to the surface with his sister in his arms. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.